Welcome to Stellar Sisters, the podcast where cosmic wisdom meets soul-enriching conversation.
We explore astrology, human design, and the unique blueprint of your soul, helping you understand yourself on a deeper level.
Consider this your permission slip to embrace the magic of being authentically you.
Let's begin.
Hello, and welcome back to Stellar Sisters. I'm your host, Shaniel, your guide for all things astrology, and we have Sydney here, your guide for all things human design. Today's episode is really exciting because we're doing a full 2026 forecast episode. So we're going to cover all of the major astrology happenings that is going to happen in 2026. So we'll talk about the eclipses. We'll talk about all of the outer planetary ingresses that are happening. I'll give you dates and key themes so you are feeling grounded in the energy and ready to take on 2026. And this is a precursor episode to our next episode where we will do horoscopes for each sign. So tune in to this episode for the overview, and then next week we'll do horoscopes for each sign so you can be even more aligned and prepared for what's coming your way. So I'm really excited to talk about this episode because 2026 is like a totally era shift. There's so many outer planetary transits that are happening that we haven't seen in decades. So it's really, really interesting. But before we jump into that, Sydney, hi. How are you?
Hey, hi. I can't wait to get into this episode too. I love planning the year and seeing what's to come. So I can't wait to hear about all of these big shifts that are happening. Talk about them. And yeah, I mean, it's December 7th today when we're recording, and I just feel like time is flying by.
Oh, when you just said that, I'm like, December 7th? How are we already a week into December?
I don't know. Every single day, November flew by, and now since December started, I look at the calendar and I'm just like, please don't go so fast,
Yeah.
just slow down a little bit.
Mhm.
November I guess it was last week now. Time goes so quick that it just feels like it was so long ago, but it was just last week.
Yeah.
It was the end of Mercury retrograde. And I talked about it in our last episode, just how so many plans have been canceled for me. But I finally had some high school friends that were coming to visit the day after Thanksgiving, and they're just coming to my house for a couple hours. And everything was going according to plan. My one friend, he was visiting in the city of Philadelphia. So I was just going to pick him up at the train station that's 10 minutes from my house. And I was just about to go pick him up. And I go downstairs into my basement, just cleaning up one last thing. And there's just water flowing down my basement wall. Like water all over the wall, water all over the shelves, water all over some of, our organizational things that we have down there, like holiday things.
No.
And I was just like screaming to my husband, like, there's water down here. And I think it had just happened recently, but one of our pipes under the kitchen sink had like come disconnected, and we were running the dishwasher, and just all the water was going down. And I still was able to go pick up my friends and see them and hang out with them. But my dad ended up coming over and fixing the problem. And, it was just like the one cherry on top, last little Mercury retrograde thing that on top of all the other things was happening.
And didn't you say that every Mercury retrograde this happens? There's water in your basement?
Not necessarily in our basement, but we have a water issue. Like one time, our water softener broke and got into all the pipes. So if that's ever happened to you, it looks yellow sand, like yellow sand in the toilets, yellow sand coming out of the faucets in the shower and the bathtub. And we just
Mm.
didn't know what it was. And we finally figured it out. But then like the sand is in your pipes and in the faucet. So you have to remove them and put new ones on. And it's just this huge thing. And I don't know, we've had other issues in different parts of the house with water, like almost every single Mercury retrograde since I moved in here. I moved in here in summer 2022. So yeah, it's just crazy.
Yeah, that's an awful Mercury retrograde thing that you
Yeah.
have. So I'm sorry you had to deal with that.
Yeah, but just one other story I wanted to share because it's like can't make this stuff up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so true. I
Yeah,
mean, once you start tracking it, it happens like clockwork.
it does. Yep. So just I'm just trying to be extra prepared. And I'm always reminding my husband, like, did we check everything?
Yeah.
Mercury retrograde's coming up, but seems to always get us somehow. Like we just had fixed a bunch of those pipes, like under the sink and under our kitchen sink going down in the basement. But I don't know, maybe it just wasn't installed correctly. We had a plumber come and do it. So
Wow.
yeah,
That's
I
tough
don't know.
luck.
Yes. But what
Yeah.
about you? How have you been doing?
Yeah, things are good. I'm very happy that Mercury retrograde is over
Yeah.
and now we can buy a new car. So we're looking to buy a new car and I was looking during Mercury retrograde and so tempted to like go and pull the trigger, but I'm like I'm not going to do it. I'm going to resist the temptation. So now that it's over, we're going to um we're going to finally pull the trigger on getting a new car. So um excited about that.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Mhm. All right. Well, let's dive into it. Let's dive into the astrology of 2026. There's
Okay.
plenty to get into. So let's jump right in. So first off, I kind of just want to start by talking about this huge shift that is starting in 2026. So 2026 is in a rare year, I want to say, astrologically, and that we have pretty much all of the outer planets changing signs. So it is rare that all of these planets would be changing signs at the same time. Because Saturn and Jupiter, sure, Jupiter changes signs every year. Saturn changes signs every like 2.5 to 3 years. So those aren't that rare. But we also have Neptune changing signs, which only happens once every 14 years. We have Uranus changing signs, which only happens once every 7 years. And then Pluto, while it's not changing signs in 2026, it just entered Aquarius for good in 2025.
Mhm.
Um, so Pluto just changed signs too, which doesn't happen often. It changes signs about every like 15 to 20 years.
Mhm.
So with these huge major outer planets all shifting signs, and they're all shifting into air or fire signs, which has this other layer to it that we'll get into. It is like we're entering a new era. And I don't mean that lightly. Like it is a big, huge shift collectively. And this isn't an overnight shift, but it is a cultural shift that will start to occur and we'll start to really feel it over the next several years. So I don't necessarily think, you know, these are things we're going to see immediately, but when we're able to look back through history, I think 2026 will be some of the start of these major societal and cultural changes that are coming that are starting to happen now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I want to talk a little bit about the elemental changes. So um, Saturn was in Pisces and Neptune was in Pisces. And this year they're both changing. They're both ingressing into Aries, which is a fire sign. Uranus, since 2018, has been in Taurus, which is an earth sign. It's ingressing into Gemini, which is an air sign. Jupiter, for that matter, is currently in Cancer, and in 2026, it's ingressing into Leo, which is a fire sign. And then Pluto is currently in Aquarius, which is an air sign. So we're really shifting from a lot of the outer planets being in earth and water signs to fire and air signs. And so when the planets are in earth and water signs, that's a very big focus on what's practical, what's real, what's logical. I'm going to take my time to build this structure, to make sure that there's a sound foundation. And shifting to air and fire, it's like the pace immediately quickens. It's more active, it's more action oriented. It's quick, it's intellectual. It's like, let's just do and not think so much. It's much more impulsive. Um, and so just taking a look at that basic elemental change, it's like, oh, okay, the pace is starting to pick up. We're starting to kind of gain momentum as we get into 2026.
I was thinking about this morning, and I honestly feel like it might not be the only factor, but I feel like this is a big factor contributing to why time feels like it's moving so much faster. With these
Mm.
all of these big planets moving into air and fire, it's just like, if you think about the elements, air and fire, like the air, when it's coming around a big campfire, it's making it go faster, bigger. It's getting, it's just moving so fast. Whereas if you think of earth and water, it's just much more grounded and slower.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And yeah, I wonder if that's contributing to this, because it's not just you and I that think like this. Everybody I talk to, whether people who aren't into astrology, don't care about it at all, they say the same thing. They feel like time is just moving so quick and the months are going by so quick. And you look back and it's like, how did that month go by already? How did 2025 go by already? And
Yeah.
I hope that 2026 doesn't feel even quicker.
That's
um,
interesting. I never really thought about it in that way. I always thought of it as just, oh, I'm getting older. And so I think as you get older, you feel like time passes
yeah.
quickly. Like as a kid, you feel like time moves so slow and summer break is so long. Um, and I think especially once you become a parent, it's like
Yeah.
time moves at super speed.
Mhm.
Maybe because you're never have any downtime. You're constantly moving and constantly doing things. I don't know. But yeah, I think that there could be something to that. And I think that with all of this fire and air energy, in this era of like earth and water, it was really kind of like allowing us to build maybe the emotional foundation and
Yeah.
the actual like physical infrastructure in our lives to prepare us for this next iteration of fire and air, meaning like, okay, we've kind of reorganized and restructured our foundational and emotional worlds. And now it's time to take action on that. Now it's
Mm.
time to actually like move forward with these things.
Yeah.
It's time to actually implement what you want to do, what you're here to do. It's not time to be introspective anymore. We've done that. And now it's time to really act on whatever it is you want to create or build in your life.
Mhm.
And I personally really feel that and really resonate with that very much.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah, so that's kind of why 2026 is such a huge pivotal moment in time astrologically. And I don't know when the last time all of these outer planets kind of change signs at the same time. Um, I would be interested to go back into history and see if there's another time when this happened, but very interesting. So it's, again, this new era we're entering. So let's kind of dig into some of the details of these ingresses and what's happening with 2026. We can start with the eclipses, because I think looking at the eclipses is one of the major things that I always look at when a new year is beginning. Because eclipses, again, we have an episode on the Virgo Pisces eclipse axis and the eclipse in the eclipses that you can go back and kind of listen to for maybe a little bit more details about those specific set of eclipses. But eclipses are, a time of fated events that are happening. It is when we're releasing things, when we're inviting more energy in a particular area into our lives. They are major turning points in our lives and in the year. And so there's a set of eclipses happening early in the year in February and March, and then there's a set of eclipses happening later in the year in August. So we'll kind of break down those eclipses. And so we're still having eclipses in the Virgo Pisces axis, but we're actually also getting a set of eclipses in the Aquarius Leo axis as well, because they're starting to shift into that Aquarius Leo axis. So on February 17th, there's a solar eclipse at 29 degrees of Aquarius. And so
No.
this is our very first, yeah, as someone who has had heavy Aquarius placements, Sydney, this is going to be an interesting one for you. Yeah, so it's a solar eclipse at 29 degrees of Aquarius. So it's a new moon eclipse. And this is our first eclipse in the Aquarius Leo axis. And what I think is interesting about this eclipse is it's the first eclipse in Aquarius that we're going to have with Pluto in Aquarius. And so what makes this interesting is, so Pluto just entered Aquarius. It's going to be there until 2044. So 20 years of this transit. And these eclipses are going to give you your first taste of what that Pluto in Aquarius is meant to teach you, is going to bring you. And so this is the first set of eclipses, again, in Aquarius. So we still have 2026 and 2027 to really discover this. But this is the first kind of taste of what that transit is going to mean for you. Yeah, so I think that's really interesting. With that solar eclipse in Aquarius, it's kind of this, again, new moon eclipse. So there's a new kind of energy that building there. There's some sort of seeds being planted in that Aquarius house of our charts that we're going to see grow, I think, over the next 6 months from the date of the eclipse. And then that next eclipse is March 3rd of 2026, and that's a lunar eclipse at 13 degrees of Virgo. So this is a full moon eclipse in Virgo. It's going to really light up the Virgo house in our charts. And again, that Virgo energy, it's a south node eclipse in Virgo. So while we are releasing things and letting go this Virgo area of our lives, this is a eclipse where maybe some of that will be highlighted, some of that will be illuminated to us. And so it's about releasing anxiety. It's about releasing the need to control. It's about releasing the need to have all of the details, releasing perfection, and really leaning into more hope, faith, trust, knowing that you are divinely supported. That eclipse in Virgo.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the next set of eclipse dates is August 12th of 2026. This is a solar eclipse at 20 degrees of Leo. So this is our first eclipse in Leo. And this is a new moon eclipse in Leo. So again, this is a brand new area of our charts that's being hit with the eclipse energy. And then on August 28th, we have a lunar eclipse at 5 degrees of Pisces. And so what I want to say about that, okay, with these eclipses moving into the Aquarius Leo axis, it's the north node in Aquarius and the south node in Leo. So the north node in Aquarius is we're leaning into the Aquarius side, and the south node in Leo is we're letting go of the Leo side. So this focus is really on social causes, on equality, and on really releasing our personal needs for the collective good. So focusing on collective and societal goals and kind of releasing that need for personal attention or personal growth, kind of releasing our does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, it does. Yep.
There's this heavy emphasis on Aquarius, which is about the collective, which is
Yeah.
about society, which is about equality. And Leo is really about the individual. And so I think we'll be really leaning into societal causes. And a big thing like 2020 was Saturn in Aquarius, which that was like so huge for like societal causes and equality and things like that. And so I think we'll see similar themes here coming
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. How can I, as an individual, help the collective now, moving into those issues more?
Exactly. Exactly. Okay, so those are the eclipses. We'll move to Jupiter. So Jupiter is currently in Cancer. It's been in Cancer since June 2025, and it will enter Leo on June 30th of 2026 and be there for a little over a year until July 26th of 2027. And so I want you to think back to 2014 to 2015, because that was the last time Jupiter was in Leo. And so similar themes can come up now. And Jupiter is the planet that brings expansion, hope, optimism, luck, opportunity. It's the most positive planet in astrology. And with Jupiter currently in Cancer, we're really being asked to tap into our emotional side, what makes us feel at home, nurtured, secure, focusing on emotional growth and nurturing and family and home. And then when Jupiter enters Leo, it's like, okay, we've been re-nourished with Jupiter in Cancer. We're feeling safe and secure, and like we found our foundation and what makes us feel nurtured. And then with Jupiter in Leo, it's expanding that Leo side of us. So our self-confidence is heightened. We are feeling more ready to step into the spotlight, to take up space, to have more confidence, to be our authentic selves in the world.
Wait,
And
this is really cool how Jupiter is going to be here within the eclipses, highlighting the North Node in Aquarius, kind of having that duality there, that polarity there.
exactly, you
Were you just
hit,
going to say that?
yes, Exactly. You hit the nail on the head. So, what I think is interesting about this is that, okay, we have Jupiter in Leo, but we also have like the South Node in Leo. So, it feels contradictory, right? Because the
Yeah.
South Node is like a release, a lessening, a letting go. But then we have Jupiter here, which is expanding that Leo personal side of ourselves. And so, here's my interpretation of that. So, we are moving more towards authenticity
Mm.
rather than performing,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
Leo is the performer, but we need to let go of the performance side of us that isn't authentic, that isn't connected to who we truly are. And we
Mm-hmm.
need to like shed that. And the in this is helping us to let go of that. So we're stepping into a more authentic version of ourselves and letting go of this need to perform to prove something, just for the sake of being seen or for the sake of attention. It's more about stepping into that authentic side of ourselves and really, Leo is the lion, is the courage, is the heart, having more of a heart-led confidence instead of an ego-led
Mm-hmm.
confidence.
Yes. I was just gonna say ego, letting go of the ego
Mhm.
in some way.
Mhm. Yeah. So that's the really lesson there with the South Node and Jupiter being in Leo at the same time, because it is a very interesting combination.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to Saturn. So we did do a whole episode on Saturn moving into Aries where we really dug into kind of the meeting of Saturn and Aries. So if you want a deep dive on that, you can go back and listen to that episode. But Saturn is currently in Pisces, and it will move into Aries for good starting on February 13th of 2026, and it will be there until April 12th of 2028. So it will be there for over 2 years. Saturn did have its first entrance into Aries for a couple of months over the summer. So we got a little taste of what that transit is back in the summer. And I want you to think back to 1996 to 1998, if you're old enough to think about some of the same themes that were happening around then. So for me, I was 8. So this is the first time that this transit is happening for me as an adult.
Wow.
So it's a big deal. I think for a lot of us, this is our first time experiencing this transit as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so Saturn entering Aries is a really interesting dynamic because Aries is like the gas pedal. Aries is ruled by Mars, which is about go, it's about action, it's about impulse, it's about just taking initiative, it's about just doing and not thinking. It's
Mm-hmm.
about standing up for ourselves. It's about fighting for what we believe in. And Saturn is the planet that represents slowing down. It's like the brake pedal. It is, um, I don't want to act until I have a well thought out plan. I want to think about what are the small steps that I can do every day that's going to lead me to my long term goals 2, 3 years, even decades from now. So you can see that the energies are very, very different. And so this lesson of Saturn in Aries is really about learning patience, um, learning about having a plan, um, learning about slowing down, learning to um, have a lot of self-reliance, because Aries is the Aries is the sign that is very independent. And Saturn here is really kind of forcing us to learn to be more self-reliant. So take a look at that Aries part of your chart, that house, and you might be learning big lessons in patience and self-reliance in that area of your life. And I think that this transit is very interesting because it's also conjunct Neptune in Aries, which puts a whole different flavor on that. So let's talk a little bit about Neptune next, and Neptune entering Aries. And so Neptune has been in Pisces for the past 14 years. So Neptune entering Aries is a big deal.
Yeah, this is huge.
It's
Such
huge.
huge shifts.
Huge
Like
shifts.
14 years is a very long time. And if
Yeah.
you just think of those outer planets, we're never going to experience those outer planets going around the full wheel of the zodiac. So wherever Uranus, Neptune, Pluto are in your chart, you're only going to get to experience a couple signs in your lifetime.
Yeah,
I just find that so interesting.
it is.
And it's shifting now into Aries. Like we have no idea what that feels like,
No.
you know? So,
Yeah.
and the
So
fact that
if
Saturn and Neptune are doing it together,
yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah, definitely. And I also want to say that if you're an Aries sun, an Aries moon, an Aries rising, if you have any strong Aries planets in your chart, this is major for you.
mhm.
This is going to be a major turning point in your life in some way. You know, it depends on what house Aries is in your chart. But if you're an Aries, you're going to feel this. This is a big deal for you. This is a pivotal point in your life. And I don't mean that this is a negative way. It could be, a time when you are really asked to take more responsibility for yourself and have more discipline and um, things like that. But it doesn't have to be negative. I know when I say that, people always jump to the worst case scenario. So that's why I'm giving this little disclaimer. But yeah, it is a big deal.
Mhm.
And it is a big deal for the Aries house in your chart, whether or not you have major Aries planets or not. But really, also, all kind of fire signs will be affected by this. If you are a cardinal sign, you'll be really affected by this. So, Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, because Neptune and Saturn will be making either oppositions or squares in your natal chart. So, this is also a big deal for all cardinal signs because this is a major shift.
Mhm.
And I have a lot of cardinal energy in my chart. So this is going to be a big shift for me.
Yeah.
Um, but yes, and so Neptune um, enters Aries on January 26th of 2026 and will be there through March 23rd of 2039. So it will be here for 13 years. So it's a long-term transit. Again, Neptune transits represent more of a slow cultural shift that happens over years rather than a very sudden or quick, noticeable change. But Neptune in Aries is a transit that I have been thinking about a lot. And like, what does this mean and what will this mean individually and collectively? Um, and I'm going to be honest and say that it does freak me out a little bit. And I'll tell you why. So, Aries is the sign that represents, it's the sign that's ruled by Mars, and Mars is the god of war. And so, when Neptune, which is the planet that represents confusion and illusions, when that planet enters Aries, this feels like war that's not like what we used to think of war, like battlefield, guns, physical violence. This feels like war that is psychological, that is
Mm,
manipulative, that is maybe like digital in nature, like cyber warfare. This looks like AI manipulation, which we're already seeing some of those kind of negative consequences, I think, of AI,
mhm,
and creating very real videos online, like videos that look like they're real, but they're not.
mhm,
Um, yeah, so I do want to put a word of caution out there with this transit about like disinformation and manipulation and AI manipulation. I think that we're going to see a different side of war. Not to get really really heavy, but this is kind of what I feel for like Neptune and Aries.
mhm. Ugh, doesn't feel great, does it? But yeah,
But
I
on the
see
positive
that.
side, I think that, with Aries being the warrior archetype and Neptune being the planet of compassion and spirituality, I think we're going to find that being a warrior is having strength in terms of compassion, strengths in terms of empathy. So I think we'll see a rise in emotional intelligence, in empathy, in intuition, um, and kind of being that um, fighting, because Aries is the sign that represents again fighting and war and conflict, but bringing a higher spiritual element in that.
Mm,
So becoming like more um, strength will be found in compassion. Strength will be found in empathy,
mm.
in having more emotional intelligence. So I think
That
that
is
that
so interesting, Chanel. I mean, if you just even look at that first Aries gate in human design, it's gate 25, it's the gate of the spirit of the self. And with both of these planets here, I'm not going to get into all of the details about this because I could talk about it forever, but in human design as well, it's going to feel like a collective wake up around compassion, around unity in some way, and really figuring out what it means to live from spirit rather than ego. Going back to our discussion about ego, it's like another layer of that with Neptune and Saturn here.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good point because Leo and Aries are similar in that they're the two signs that focus on the
Mm, yeah.
individual.
Yeah.
And they're both having pretty major transits this year.
Hmm.
And with the South Node in Leo and with Saturn and Neptune in Aries, this is definitely like we're building more compassion, more authenticity, more empathy. Like
Hmm.
those are really, really major themes that we're moving into
Yes.
for 2026 and beyond.
Hmm.
Yeah. Super interesting.
Yeah. And I think too, with what you were saying about just the digital warfare, it's like how you're going to be able to start using your discernment, and how can I step into my own authenticity, and at the same time doing that, it gives me more discernment to see when other people aren't in their authenticity, or maybe I can detect AI things a bit more because I am now stepping into my authentic self.
Yeah. Yes. There is something major about that. I think that you just hit on
Yeah,
because with the rise of AI, like things online aren't authentic.
right.
you know? Um, it's crazy. It's just like
I
nothing that we have ever seen before,
I
like, in the
know.
history of everything,
I mean,
It's just
yeah. I'm definitely feeling it already and seeing it already too, because even with, like, ads for the holidays, for holiday shopping, like, normally I'd be like, "Oh, yeah, I need that thing." Like, they're totally selling me, like, unconsciously, they're selling me on that thing. I've been so much more discerning with just ads popping up because there's so many of them now. I'll even just go through Instagram and it's like, "Perfect gift for toddler stocking stuffer," and it's just like every other ad, there's something, and it's like, "Okay, well, I don't need everything that I'm seeing." Um, and a lot of it's like AI generated content,
yeah.
and I'm starting to really see the difference.
Mhm.
Starting to really notice the difference, whereas before I didn't really see a difference at all.
Yeah. Okay, 2 things that are coming to mind. One is, um, that I saw someone post something on Instagram saying that there is AI targeted prices for people. At least I guess this is something that's legal in New York State, meaning that you will be shown a different price depending for an item, depending on, like, your purchasing history and your browsing
Wow.
history online.
I believe it.
And that feels very much like this kind of like Neptune and Aries manipulation, you know,
Rose-colored
s
glasses.
manipulation, cyber, AI stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
So I think that kind of stuff, we're gonna have to, like, be aware of.
Mhm.
And the second is, with this rise of AI, especially in the, like, personal social media world, um, we can be anybody that we wanna be. We can project any image that we want to project, whether or not that's based in reality.
Mm,
And that's kind of crazy.
yeah.
And I think what these transits are kind of telling us is that we need to come back to our authenticity. We need to come back to our true nature, to our real selves.
Mhm.
And we need to be like very in touch with who that is, especially with that South Node in Leo. It's kind of like we need to shed like this fake confidence, and just
Yeah.
be more in touch with who we are at our core. And with that Saturn in Aries, it's like learning maybe who you are as an individual more
Mhm.
and learning more. Maybe there are more challenges in figuring out who you are as an individual, meaning like who are you um in as a person, even in your relationships, and finding more of your individual strength,
Mhm.
even if you're like in a marriage or in a partnership.
Yeah, really stripping down to who you actually are and not doing things because you feel like you should do them because of the people you're around or people in your life or certain situations that are going on, or trying to be something that you think people will like, but just tapping back into who am I actually? And can I believe in that, and can I feel worthy enough to put that out there that other people will accept me for who I am, you know?
Yes.
And that's
Yes.
scary.
Yeah, and learning how to, like, prioritize yourself
Yeah.
and your true needs, rather than kind of placating to other people.
Mm. Oh, I love this. This is
Yeah,
going deep.
I know. Yeah, there are some really big themes here around that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, huge.
And so, yeah, I just think it's a year that we're gonna have to use not only a year, but an era that we're entering that we're
Mhm.
really gonna have to use our discernment. And I think it will be easy to like get swept up in ideas of who we want to be or who we want to project we are. And I think it's important that we remember who we really are inside.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'll say about that. Um, okay. Another layer of this whole thing is Uranus entering Gemini. So Uranus has been in Taurus since 2018. It's currently in Taurus, and it will move into Gemini for good starting on April 26th of 2026, and will be there for 7 years. So again, we did do a whole episode on Uranus entering Gemini for kind of a deep dive on this transit, but Gemini is the sign of communication. It can be very technological. It rules transportation, travel, the way we think, the way that we communicate with each other. And Uranus is the planet of revolution, of change, of upheaval. Um, and so this is kind of like huge leaps and advances in technology and communication and transportation and the way that we communicate with each other. So this is, again, I think it plays into everything that we were just talking about with like
Yeah.
AI and technology and all of that kind of stuff. There are some really interesting unifying themes here that like keep circling around.
Yeah. And Gemini is quick to me. Like it's fast paced. It's another fast paced layer that's coming into play here.
Gemini is very quick because Gemini likes to bounce around from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gemini gets bored easily, so it is very,
Yeah.
very quick, like you were saying. So with like kind of this Neptune, Saturn AI stuff, plus Uranus entering Gemini, which is really pushing advances in communication and technology, like it's just, I think over this next era, this next decade or so is going to be like such a pivotal time.
It is. A
Um,
lot of things are going to shift. A lot of things are going to change, and it's going to be quick.
yeah. Yeah. And it's kind of like you got to keep up or you're going to like fall behind kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Um, but on a personal level, like obviously, if you're a Gemini, you're a Gemini sun, if you're a Gemini moon, if you're a Gemini rising, this is a big, huge, once in a lifetime transit for you.
Yeah.
Guess who's a Gemini moon? Oh, that would be me.
What degree is your moon at again?
15.
Okay.
Yeah. So I got a couple of years until the transit hits exactly, but
Yeah.
um I do think just the elemental or the sign change, you start to feel it if you are a Gemini
You
or
do.
if you have strong Gemini planets, you feel it. And it will peak when that transit kind of hits exactly for you at some point within the 7 years cycle.
Mm.
But yeah, this is a big deal if you're a Gemini and a big deal if you have mutable sign placements. So Gemini, Sagittarius, Pisces, and Virgo, because this Uranus will be squaring or opposing or conjunct your mutable planets. So, um, yeah, this is a big deal. And a couple of things while I'm thinking about Uranus. So, in our Uranus episode, I talked about Uranus and Taurus and changes to and disruptions to like money and finances and the food industry.
Mm.
And Uranus kind of just moved back into Taurus for the end of 2025. And two notable Uranus and Taurus things are number one, they discontinued the penny.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're not making pennies anymore, which is a very Uranus and Taurus thing. And number 2 is all of the disruptions to SNAP benefits for people.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
That is how a lot of people eat, how a lot of people put food on the table for their families. And that was really kind of disrupted and shaken up and up in the
And
air
shocking.
and shocking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are a couple of the kind of last Uranus and Taurus things that I feel like we're experiencing before Uranus enters Gemini. Okay. And, the last thing that we can really touch on just briefly is Pluto and Aquarius. And Pluto's not necessarily ingressing into Aquarius this year in 2026, but it did just recently enter Aquarius and will be there for, I don't know, 30 years, something like that. I don't remember the exact date that it leaves Aquarius, but this is a big deal. And what's interesting about this, like I said, is that we're having our first set of Aquarius eclipses, which will be with this Plutonian energy, which we haven't had at all ever in our lifetimes. So it's very interesting. And Pluto in Aquarius feels very like power to the people. Like the people want to take the power, they want to hold the power. Whereas Pluto in Capricorn was like a huge time where the corporations held the power, and the
Yes.
corporations have the power,
Yeah.
and the structures have the power, and the big business has the power. And Pluto in Aquarius feels very much like the people want the power back.
Mm-hmm.
And especially with this North Node in entering Aquarius, I think that we'll see some really big, huge societal collective shifts happening with that. Yeah. And kind of like Aquarius also rules the future. It rules technology. It rules community. And so Pluto there can really highlight the underbelly of all of these things, the kind of exposing the maybe side of these things that we don't want to look at, that we don't want to see. But it's necessary to kind of expose the underbelly, the ugly parts of these things, so we can have breakthroughs and collective awakening and the shifts that we want to see happen in these areas. Yeah, and just individually, obviously, if you're an Aquarius, this is huge. This is like huge for you.
Mm.
um, and Aquarius is also the sign that is about stepping into your authenticity, about, embracing the parts of you that feel different, that feel weird, that feel quirky, that feel, ahead of your time, that where you want to step into your authentic nature, even if that's different from what the collective is,
Mm.
march to the beat of your own drum kind of thing.
That's beautiful. I love that. Oh my gosh, there's so many shifts happening.
So many. Yeah. And with that Pluto, this is a slow moving transit. So if you're in Aquarius, depending on what degree Aquarius placements you have, is you might start to feel this now if you have early degrees Aquarius, or it could be years until you really start to feel that Pluto transit. But it's a really, really big shift. And because the eclipses are happening, we're going to get a little taste of what that transit is here to bring us. But yeah, and Aquarius is a fixed sign. So, if you have fixed sign, especially early degree fixed sign placements, because Pluto just entered Aquarius, you'll be feeling this the most. So obviously Aquarius, Leo, Taurus, and Scorpio. So we really hit cardinal, we hit mutable, we hit fixed. So it's like there's no,
Everybody.
yeah, everybody is going to feel something. I think
Yeah.
in previous years it's been like, oh wow, there's a lot of fixed energy, so the fixed signs are going to feel it, or oh, there's a lot of cardinal energy. But like this, with all of this happening, it's like you're not free from any kind of like change or transformation
Yeah.
or something that's being asked of you. So
Yeah, wow. That's really interesting. We're
yeah,
all getting shaken up this year in some way. And it's not a bad thing.
yeah,
It doesn't have to be bad.
right, exactly. It's just, again, I think one of the major themes that is woven with everything that I talked about is authenticity, is staying true to yourself,
Mhm.
you know, is learning what you need and desire, learning how to stand up for yourself, um, learning how to be authentically you, even if it's different.
Mhm.
Those are some of the major themes that I see.
Yeah, that's huge. And so much of that gets conditioned out of us, as when we're kids. We're not really taught how to lean into our authentic selves.
Hmm.
Um, so it can be helpful to get a reading,
Yes.
astrology reading, human design reading, and it can help you just kind of remember who you are because you already know you have all the answers. It's just helpful for someone else to say it to you so you can start to have awareness around it.
Yeah. And I think what's helpful about an astrology reading is with these huge major shifts happening, I think it can be helpful to know what area of life it's happening in
Yes.
for you, because it just gives you a sense of groundedness, of clarity, and of intention. Like you are aware of where these shifts are happening for you. And so you can have more preparation, you can have more confidence walking into those shifts rather than being completely blindsided or thrown off around it. And you can work with it like, oh, I know Uranus is going to transit my moon and probably like 3-ish years. And so if that time comes and I'm feeling anxious, if I'm feeling disrupted, if I'm feeling like my life is, being turned upside down, I can know, okay, I'm experiencing a Uranus transit. And what is this transit asking of me? Oh, it's asking me to step out of my comfort zone. It's asking me to do things differently. It's asking me to, break free of things that have kept me feeling stuck, and I can work with that energy rather than being like, what's happening?
Mhm.
So I
Yeah,
think
it's so
that's how
powerful.
I use astrology and why I think it's so useful.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
can't
me too.
imagine having that happen to me and being like, I don't know, astrology is just how we make meaning of
Yes.
some of these things. And it allows me to feel connected to a higher purpose, to a divine order. Like, okay, what is God or the universe asking of me during this transit?
Mhm.
Because I believe my soul signed up for this.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah.
I love that, Chanel.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is just comforting to know, what house things are hitting. What can I expect in some way? You're not always going to know exactly how it's going to happen, but just to be prepared in some way.
Hmm.
So helpful to know that.
Yeah. Or when shifts start happening and you're like, oh, that's this transit.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, I know something's going to happen, but then once it does, you're like, "Oh yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense now."
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So a, l- a lot of stuff happening in 2026.
Mhm. Yeah. And stay tuned for our next episode because Chanel's going to do horoscopes. So it'll give you a better idea of what houses everything is hitting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You don't want to miss that.
No.
All right. Well, thank you for listening. Let us know if you have questions or thoughts or reflections on any of this, because we talked about a lot and there's still so much more to kind of digest and unpack. And let us know what you think. We love to have a conversation. Rate and review us, please, if you feel called to. You can book a reading with either one of us on stellarsisterspodcast.com. And thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful day and happy 2026.
Happy 2026. Bye.
Bye.